Hello everyone, I'm Lanka, Assistant Professor of English, St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science, Cuddalore. In this video, we are going to see Prologue to the Canterbury Tales written by Geoffrey Chaucer. Before we go into the poem, we'll see an introduction to Chaucer here. Geoffrey Chaucer was an English poet and author, widely considered as the greatest English poet of the Middle Ages. He is best known for the Canterbury Tales. He is known as the father of English literature as well as the father of English poetry. So that in itself shows us the greatness of Chaucer as a writer. Some of his significant works are mentioned in this slide: The Book of the Duchess, The House of Fame, The Legend of Good Women, and Troilus and Cressida. He began his greatest work, or his more famous work, the Canterbury Tales, in which we come across different kinds of people who recount stories to pass the time on a pilgrimage to Canterbury. Chaucer disappears from the historical record the beginning of the 15th century, and is thought to have died soon after, and he is buried in the famous Westminster Abbey. The Canterbury Tales is a combination of verse and prose, and here we see the story of 31 pilgrims walking from Southwark to Canterbury on a pilgrimage to the shrine of St. Thomas Becket. He begins the prologue to the Canterbury Tales with a description of the return of spring. This is the time of year when people begin to feel the desire to go on a pilgrimage. Most English pilgrims set off to visit shrines in faraway holy lands, but many chose to travel to visit the Canterbury, to especially visit the relic of St. Thomas Becket in Canterbury Cathedral, where they would thank the martyr for having helped them in times of need. Canterbury was a fairly easy destination as a pilgrimage centre, and therefore popular in the 14th century England. People travelled to visit the remains of St. Thomas Becket, Archbishop of Canterbury, who was murdered in 1170 by the knights of King Henry II. He became the most popular saint in England after his death. The pilgrimage also offered the pilgrims an opportunity to take a vacation from the drudgery of work. The narrator and the host also are a part of the group of pilgrims who are traveling towards Canterbury. The narrator reveals that he was staying at a tavern called Tabard Inn as he prepared to go on the pilgrimage. Here, he came across a great company of 29 travellers on their way to Canterbury. They let the narrator join their group. Before continuing the tale, the narrator declares his intent to list and describe each member of the group. We also have the host, whose name is Harry Bailey. He suggests that each pilgrim should tell a story to make the journey pleasant. The person to tell the best tale would be awarded an elegant dinner at the end of the trip. Chaucer, too, is one of the pilgrims. The purpose of the prologue is to give the readers a general overview of the characters that we come across in this Canterbury Tales. Medieval social theory divided society into three broad classes called estates: the military, the clergy, and the laity. So the first character that we come across is the knight. We also see the squire. The knight and the squire, they represent the military estate. So the knight is the first pilgrim to be described in the prologue. Chaucer feels that being a knight, he should be given the priority, and also because of his qualities, the qualities of truth, honor, generosity, and courtesy. And also, he is the highest on the social scale. So the host is shown to clearly admire the knight for all these wonderful qualities that we see in him. The narrator particularly remembers four main qualities of the knight. The first is his love of ideals. The second is the knight's impressive military career. The third is his meek, gentle manner. And the fourth is his dressing. We find that he is wearing a tunic made of coarse cloth, and his coat of mail is rust stained because he has recently returned from an expedition. The knight begins his tale. So his tale is about Duke Theseus, who has returned from overthrowing Scythia and is accompanied by his new wife Hippolyta and her sister Emily. Outside Athens, he meets a group of women who are crying. He stops them and talks to them and finds out about the death of their husbands and that they are not allowed to bury their husbands. Now, this has been done by Creon, and he is preventing the dead from being buried. And this angers the Duke, and he orders his forces to go against Creon and his men. So the forces of Creon are overthrown, and as the army of Duke Theseus, they look around, they find two young knights who are still alive, Arcite and Palamon. So the Duke decides not to kill these two knights, but to imprison them. From their prison, Arcite and Palamon, they see Emily, the Duke's sister-in-law, in the garden, and they both fall in love with her. Arcite, through the influence of a friend of his, finds freedom from his prison, but is banished from Athens. Later he returns in disguise, and he finds job as a page in Emily's chamber. In the meanwhile, Palamon also escapes from prison, and the two men who are in love with the same girl meet and fight over Emily. The Duke intervenes and arranges a tournament in which he says the winner would receive Emily as the prize. Arcite wins the tournament, but his horse shies away, and because of that he is overthrown from his horse, and he is injured mortally. And as he is drawing his last breath, he acknowledges that Palamon is the next best man who is worthy of marrying Emily, and he requests him to do so. After a long period of mourning, Palamon then gets married to Emily. So this is the tale told by the knight. The next tale that we come across, according to the syllabus that has been prescribed for us, it's The Wife of Bath. She is a seamstress and she has been married 5 times. So she reminds us of a biblical character, a woman who had been married 5 times and who is met with by Jesus Christ. Now this seamstress is a very strong woman, and she has found out that she can control her husband by using her body. The story that she tells is from a distant time when King Arthur ruled the country. King Arthur had one particular knight who, when riding home, found a maiden who was walking alone and raped her. Now, this crime is deserving of the penalty of death. But in court, the queen intervenes and requests the king to spare the knight. And she makes one condition, telling him that she would put forth a question to which he should answer within a year. The question that she asks is, what do women most desire? The knight has 1 year to find the answer for this question, and so he decides to go on a journey trying to find the answer to this question. Along his journey, he finds different people giving different answers to which he is not very happy about. And then he comes across a hideous old woman to whom he puts forth the same question. She agrees to give him the answer, but on one condition, and she whispers in his ear. So he returns to the court along with the old woman, who is described as a lovely lady. He faces the queen and told them that what women desired was mastery above their husbands. So this answer seems to be what the queen had been expecting. And now the lovely lady, she speaks up and says how the knight had promised to do whatever she asked of him, and she turns to him and tells him to make her his wife. The knight is shocked. The lady is hideous. He is not very happy about this situation that he finds himself in. And realizing his unhappiness, this lady, she holds him to his promise, and the knight marries her. But then she confronts him about his unhappiness and gives him a choice. She says he can either have her as ugly and faithful, or as young and beautiful and unfaithful. The knight is very confused, and ultimately he tells her to make her own choice. The lady asks him to kiss her. Once he does so, he finds that she has transformed into a beautiful young woman, and then they live happily ever after. The Wife of Bath concludes by saying that Christ should grant all women submissive husbands and kill all men who don't submit to their wives. We then move on to the physician's tale. Chaucer portrays the physician as a well-educated man, but cunning, greedy, and boastful. He is well trained and has a good knowledge of ancient medicine from Greek, Latin, and Arabic sources. He is a member of the medieval middle class. He is a doctor and surgeon of unparalleled skill, according to his own opinion. The physician's tale involves a knight whose name is Virginius. He had all physical blessings one could expect in life: friends, money, as well as a beautiful and loving wife and daughter. The daughter's name was Virginia, and she was well known for her beauty as well as purity. One day she and her mother went to a town on a religious errand, and they were seen by a judge whose name was Appius. He caught sight of Virginia and he lusted after her. He made a devious plan. He got together with a blackguard called Claudius. He paid him to falsely testify against Virginius. According to their plot, Claudius claimed that Virginius had kidnapped a young girl a very long time back and held her prisoner in his house, claiming that she was his daughter. Virginius realized the cunning plot of Appius was to somehow gain hold over Virginia to satisfy his own lustful desires. Sadly, he went back home and told his daughter all about it and asked her whether she preferred dishonor or death. And this young girl, she chose to die a virgin. Having expressed her desire to die a virgin, she faints and falls down. Virginius then cuts off her head, takes it to the court, and presents it to the judge. The people of the town, they hear about this treachery. They rush in, they grab Appius, and they hang him. Claudius was also sentenced to death, but Virginius begged to have his sentence commuted to exile. So, having heard about the physician's tale, now we come to the tale told by the prioress. The character of prioress in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales seems to be a woman of two faces. She is introduced as an aristocratic, genteel, pious nun. But at the same time, we see that she is one who is full of anti-Semitic attitude. The prioress is a character who tries to portray herself in a very elegant manner. She seems to have many funny habits like singing through her nose, speaking French with an English accent, and trying to eat in a very dainty manner. She calls on to Virgin Mary to guide her as she tells her tale. Her tale involves Jews and Christians. In an ancient city, a Christian school is located at the edge of a Jewish ghetto. The Christian students used to travel through the ghetto to reach their school. And among the group of Christian students was a little 7-year-old boy who attended the same school. He was a devout Christian and he loved to hear the song sung by the other students with him. And that was a song exalting Mother Mary. He learnt the song and he used to sing at the top of his voice every day as he walked through the ghetto. But this habit of his annoyed all the Jews who lived there, and so they got together, hired a murderer to kill this little boy. And this murderer, he caught hold of this little boy, he slit his throat, killed him, and threw him into a pit. His mother came looking for him, and she went house by house asking the Jews if they knew where the little boy was. The Jews refused to tell the widow. They told her they didn't know. And as she was turning back in a very dejected manner, suddenly she could hear this little boy singing out at the top of his voice miraculously. The Christians heard the voice and they recovered his body. The magistrate ordered the Jews who were involved in this murder to be drawn by wild horses and to be hanged. So, this is the story of the prioress that we read here. Other collections of tales have existed before Chaucer's, especially the most famous being Boccaccio's Decameron. But here the narrators they belong to the same high social class. However, Chaucer's narrators represent a wide spectrum of society from various ranks and occupations. His genius at understanding basic human nature has made him the great poet he is, and he is a delight to read. So here in the slide you find the various websites that I referred to. So you all can go through these sites later for still more information. I hope you find this video useful. And if you like the video, please like, share and comment. We shall meet in another video with another topic. Thank you.